It's no secret to anybody who lives in Bakersfield, the Central Valley, or frankly, California for that matter, that California is just unaffordable for far too many. I mean, it's a sad state of affairs that a quarter of the entire state is on some form of welfare.
California holds the highest unemployment rate of any state in America right now, and more than 1.1 million people have remained out of work for over 19 consecutive months. This is the story of how the Golden State ended up here, who's bearing the weight of it, and what it means for the millions of families struggling to stay afloat. The numbers paint a troubling picture. As of November 2025, unemployment in California sits at 5.5%, which might not sound alarming until you realize that's worse than all 49 other states. Only Washington, D.C. comes in higher at 6.5%, and D.C. isn't even a state. The national average hovers around 4.6%, which puts California running almost a full percentage point behind the rest of the country. But here's where it gets worse. Over 1.1 million Californians are currently unemployed, and that number has stayed above 1 million for 19 straight months without relief. Initial unemployment claims have climbed year over year for 28 consecutive months, and that's not a spike or a temporary setback. That's a sustained pattern of economic pain stretching back more than 2 years. California's share of the national unemployment burden tells its own story. The state accounts for roughly 18% of all new unemployment claims filed across the entire United States, which becomes striking when you consider California only represents about 12% of national employment. Californians are losing jobs at a rate that far exceeds their share of the workforce. 4 major industries explain why California specifically is hurting more than other states, and understanding them reveals the depth of what's happening here. Technology sits at the top of that list because no other state feels tech layoffs the way California does. In 2025 alone, California lost 73,499 tech jobs, and that represents 43% of all tech layoffs across the entire United States, concentrated in one state. The companies making cuts read like a who's who of Silicon Valley. Intel has slashed over 24,000 positions globally, while the Bay Area absorbs a significant portion of that pain, as the company shrinks from 109,000 employees down to around 75,000. Meta eliminated approximately 4,000 jobs between January 2025 and January 2026, targeting workers they labeled as low performers. Salesforce cut over 4,000 positions as artificial intelligence replaced many customer support roles, and Amazon shed 14,000 corporate jobs while pouring resources into AI development. Even Cisco laid off 221 workers, with 157 of those cuts hitting Santa Clara County alone. San Francisco's chief economist Ted Egan captured the situation when he explained that tech layoffs haven't stopped because tech isn't growing, and that includes AI. For anyone who remembers the tech booms and busts of decades past, this might feel familiar, but here's what's different now. AI isn't creating new jobs to replace the old ones the way previous technology waves did. Companies are using AI to accomplish more with fewer people, and that represents a structural shift rather than a temporary adjustment. Entertainment has been devastated as well, and this one hammers Los Angeles harder than anywhere else. Employment in motion picture and sound recording dropped 27% in LA County between 2022 and 2024, which translates to roughly 142,000 workers falling to around 100,000. That's more than 41,000 jobs vanishing from one of California's signature industries over 5 years. Production numbers tell the same story. LA area filming dropped 13.2% in the third quarter of 2025 compared to the same period a year earlier. Across the country, the entertainment sector eliminated over 17,000 jobs in 2025, and that figure actually jumped 18% from the previous year. Every major studio has been cutting. Paramount and Skydance let approximately 2,000 employees go following their merger. Disney eliminated several hundred positions, including 200 at ABC and their entertainment division. Lionsgate shed 130 employees, which amounted to 13% of their entire workforce. The news divisions at CNN, CBS News, and NBC News together accounted for approximately 450 layoffs. Anyone who remembers Hollywood's golden age, or even the aggressive expansion years of the streaming wars, is watching something very different now. The industry is contracting in ways that suggest many of these jobs simply aren't coming back. Federal workforce cuts driven by the Department of Government Efficiency Initiative created another wave of unemployment. Approximately 300,000 federal layoff announcements happened nationally in 2025, and California absorbed a substantial portion of that given its large federal presence. NASA and the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in La Cañada Flint Ridge experienced reductions. Department of Defense civilian roles at California's military bases disappeared. EPA regional office staff shrank, and Veterans Affairs facilities throughout the state saw cuts. By December 2025, the national federal workforce had dropped from 3.015 million to 2.744 million, a 9% reduction that rippled through every state with significant government employment. Manufacturing delivered the fourth blow. California lost 12,200 manufacturing jobs year over year, with durable goods down 7,200 positions and non-durable goods down 5,000, including 1,600 jobs in apparel alone. For perspective on how badly the state performed, California ranked 49th among all states in monthly job performance in February 2025, second to last in the entire nation. Governor Gavin Newsom's response has combined economic development programs with pointed criticism of federal policies under President Trump, and he's been vocal on both fronts. On the economic development side, February 2025 brought the California Jobs First Economic Blueprint, a $245 million initiative. That money breaks down into $125 million for ready-to-go projects in strategic sectors, $15 million for California Native American tribal economic development, $13 million for LA region economic recovery and small businesses, and $92 million for apprenticeship and jobs programs. The stated goal targets 500,000 apprentices by 2029, and the administration claims they've already exceeded that number with 600,000 earn and learn opportunities in place. Newsom pushed through an expansion of the film and television tax credit as well, boosting it from $330 million to $750 million annually in an attempt to keep production from fleeing the state. The LA wildfires in January 2025 prompted $20 million in federal dislocated worker grants, with half going to EDD for temporary jobs like debris removal and shelter operations, and the other half flowing to LA County for transitional employment. Newsom's public statements have grown sharper as conditions worsened. In January 2025, during his Jobs First tour, his tone remained optimistic, declaring that California was not only dominating, but paving the way for the future of jobs and the American economy. He pointed to a balanced budget and maintained investments. That optimism had faded considerably by August 2025 when he posted on social media that conditions hadn't looked this bad since 2020, and he warned people not to let Donald Trump gaslight them. September 2025 brought an even blunter message after the unemployment rate ticked up, with Newsom declaring that unemployment had risen to 4.3%, the highest since the pandemic, and accusing Donald Trump of wrecking the economy. By October 2025, Newsom called the Trump presidency a disaster by every measure, and claimed those policies had failed ordinary Americans by making life tougher for working people, small business owners, and families. Then, in January 2026, during his State of the State address, Newsom pivoted back to state revenues, telling the audience they might want to write it down because revenues came in $42.3 billion higher than forecasted. His explanation for that surplus was simple. The economy was growing. Republicans have pushed back hard on that narrative. State Senator Suzette Martinez Valladares from Santa Clarita argued in February 2025 that the governor chose to squander the budget surplus in his first term instead of fixing his broken unemployment insurance system. Senator Roger Niello, serving as Budget Committee Vice Chair, warned in January 2026 that the governor's budget assumptions were dangerously more optimistic than the legislative analysts' assumptions. Senator Rosalici Ochoa Bogue captured the Republican sentiment by pointing out that the results don't match the rhetoric, and that while speeches sound optimistic, budgets at the kitchen table don't add up. One detail that often gets buried in these political fights is the debt California still carries. The state owes approximately $20 billion to the federal government, money it borrowed during the pandemic to pay unemployment benefits. California remains one of only 4 states that hasn't repaid that debt, and the balance continues growing. UCLA economics professor Lee Ohanian, affiliated with the Hoover Institution, observed that California has gotten so far behind on unemployment insurance reform. He noted that the states that haven't repaid their pandemic loans are all high-tax and high-spending states that are all losing population. The math on unemployment benefits reveals the ongoing problem. California currently pays out approximately $7.4 billion in unemployment benefits annually while collecting less than $5 billion in payroll taxes. That deficit has to come from somewhere. Economic forecasters can't agree on what comes next, and that disagreement itself signals how uncertain the situation remains. The UCLA Anderson forecast from December 2025 describes California as running a bifurcated economy, meaning artificial intelligence and aerospace are expanding, while construction, manufacturing, and retail face significant headwinds from multiple directions. Their projection puts unemployment peaking at 6.1%, with rates staying around 6% through 2026. Gradual improvement won't begin until late 2026 in their estimation, and a real rebound might not materialize until 2027. Legislative analyst Gabe Patek has sounded warnings about the state's fiscal position, describing the economy as sluggish and pointing to an $18 billion budget gap that could balloon to $35 billion annually if nothing changes. Patek also flagged $21.6 billion in off-the-books debt the state has accumulated to cover recent deficits. Californians themselves have grown pessimistic. The Public Policy Institute of California surveyed residents in December 2025, and the results reflected deep concern. 71% of Californians predicted bad economic times for the state in 2026. 74% expected mostly periods of widespread unemployment or depression in the United States during the next 5 years. Economic pessimism jumped 12 percentage points in just 1 year, and perhaps most telling of all, 3 in 10 California households reported cutting back on food to save money. Not every forecast paints the same grim picture. Comerica Bank's 2026 California Outlook suggests the state's economy appears to have outperformed the rest of the nation in 2025, with artificial intelligence fueling that growth. Their projection has California continuing to outperform nationally in 2026 as well. But even Comerica acknowledges that high costs for Main Street, businesses, slow population growth, and cool labor demand remain challenges that haven't gone away. Comparing current conditions to the pandemic peak provides some perspective on where things stand. April 2020 brought California's weekly claims record when 925,450 people filed in a single week. Today, weekly claims run around 50,000. The peak unemployment rate during COVID reached 16.1%, while today's rate sits at 5.5%. Continuing claims topped out at 5.4 million in July 2020, and current levels hover around 381,000. So no, this isn't a crisis on the scale of the pandemic. Current unemployment rates run at roughly 1/3 of those peak levels. But California also sits well above the pre-pandemic low of 3.8% that the state hit in August 2022, and the trend line has moved in the wrong direction for over 2 years now. The question that hangs over all of this is whether California's struggles represent temporary adjustments as industries adapt to AI and changing consumer habits, or whether something more structural is breaking down in the state's economy. Tech companies that once added thousands of jobs every quarter now eliminate positions while increasing productivity through automation. Entertainment studios that expanded aggressively for streaming have shifted into contraction mode. The state's overall cost structure continues making California expensive for businesses trying to operate here. What's certain is that more than 1.1 million Californians are navigating this moment right now. They're filing claims, attending job fairs, updating resumes, and figuring out how to keep their families afloat while economists debate what the charts mean and politicians trade blame. The highest unemployment rate in the nation isn't an abstraction. It's more than a million individual stories of people waiting for the economy to turn around and hoping it happens before their savings run out. Thanks for watching. If this breakdown helped you understand what's happening, consider subscribing, because we'll keep following this story as it develops.